Dear friends, Bear is enjoying his new home on the Fat Controller's Railway. While I was busy with Oliver's book, Bear has been learning the road and getting to know the island. By far his favourite discovery so far are the little steam engines that work at the zoo. They are narrow gauge, like the Skarloey engines, but they have a very different working environment. Bear got to take one of these engines, Hercules, home from the works. But not all went smoothly after that. These are the stories of these wild little engines, their animals, and how they almost lost, but then saved, their special line. The author. No laughing matter. Bear the High-Mech engine was the newest diesel on the Fat Controller's Railway. During one of his recent trains, his ejector had failed. But the Fat Controller had sent him to the works to be repaired at once. He came to visit him when his repairs were finished. "You're in the right place at the right time," he told Bear. "There's another engine being repaired here that needs to be delivered back to its line. Can you take them?" "Of course, sir," Bear agreed. He ran through the works and found a narrow gauge engine loaded onto a flatbed. "Hello," he pooped his horn. "I'm Bear. I'm here to take you home." "Ha!" the little engine laughed. "I'm Hercules. You're no bear. I should know." "Why?" Bear frowned. "Because I live at Sodor Zoo." Bear chuckled. "I'm not a real bear. I didn't know there were engines at the zoo." He roared to life as they left the siding. Hercules began explaining more. "I help run a small narrow gauge line round the zoo grounds. Our railway takes passengers and supplies to and through different animal exhibits. We run right next to giraffes and rhinos and elephants, kind of like a railway safari." "That sounds exciting," Bear said. "There's 3 of us now," Hercules continued. "I was the first to arrive, but the other 2 were delivered quickly after my first accident. Gethin came from Wales, and Darwin from Devonshire. Gethin has a short temper and can be narrow-sighted, but Darwin is carefree and chilled out. We get on well." "I'm sorry to hear about your accident," Bear said as they passed a signal. "It was a learning exercise for everyone," Hercules recalled. "They built the railway first without much idea of what engines would run on it. I was saved from a line closing down on the other railway. But upon arrival, they found I was too large for the line. I rode off the rails in tight spots and almost grazed platforms and buildings. My arrival prompted lots of refinements. What we all overlooked, though, was the ha-has." "What?" Bear rumbled, not understanding the joke. "I don't get it." "Ha-has are a kind of sunken fence that keeps animals inside their enclosures," explained Hercules. "One side slopes into a ditch that meets the bottom of a wall, while the other side has the land flush with the top of the wall. Our rails run over a tiny bridge over the sloping ditch. This lets us travel between enclosures, but keeps the animals in." "I don't see anything funny about that," Bear mused. "The ha-has creaked and groaned as I ran over them," Hercules said. "Almost like they were saying hee-hee. I asked my driver if we could rename them that." "Don't be silly," he said. "Anyway, when adjustments were being made for me, they forgot all about the ha-has. One day, I was rolling through with my permanent way train when one of the ha-has gave way under me. I ended up bunker down in the ditch." "Oh my," Bear gasped. "Whatever did they do?" "They had to use a pump trolley to push the small crane round the line to my front, and then they pulled me out onto level rails. I was chocked there while the ha-ha was repaired and then carefully rolled home for inspection and repair." "I guess you could say you learned the hard way that ha-has are no laughing matter," Bear laughed. Hercules joined him. "Ha ha, indeed they're not." Bear arrived at the zoo station halt and transfer yard. Hercules was unloaded by crane back onto his own lines. "Thank you for the lift. As a bear, you're welcome to visit us any time." "Thank you," Bear roared away. In the distance he heard the roar of a lion and the peep of a little whistle. Darwin's drop-off. Darwin dozed in the shed while the other engines handled the passenger trains. The tall controller interrupted his piece and ducked beneath the shed doorway. As he cleared his throat, Darwin woke up. "Darwin, as you've worked so hard covering Hercules' work during his overhaul, I thought you'd appreciate a special job a bit different from the norm," he said. "Yes, please, sir." Darwin lit up, and then yawned. "A male buffalo has arrived recently and has finished his quarantine period. He's ready to be introduced to the herd. Can you pull the cattle truck into the enclosure so the keepers can release him?" "Of course," Darwin agreed. "I'll be ready in a jiffy." His driver stoked his fire and raised his boiler pressure. In no time at all, Darwin sauntered out of the shed towards the loading bay. He arrived to find a singular coach waiting for him, with the cattle truck coupled behind. The keeper was waiting on the platform. "Nice and gently, please," the keeper said to his driver. He then got into the coach, shutting the doors gently as to not startle the buffalo. As soon as the points had changed, Darwin strolled out onto the main line. He ran right through the zoo grounds. Animals called and children laughed. "Buffalo, buffalo, buffalo, buffalo," he hummed in time with his wheels clattering over the rail joins. A short, stumpy signal stopped them at the station inside the passing loop. "Wait there a second," the signalman instructed. "Once Hercules' train is out of the safari block, I'll let you through." Gethin pulled up behind Darwin at the end of the platform. Come on," he muttered impatiently. "I have passengers waiting to disembark." Everything then happened at once. The keeper spoke to Darwin's driver. "Make sure you drop us off at the signal dropped." The station master blew his whistle. Gethin snorted through his own whistle indignantly, startling the buffalo. The cattle truck rocked on its axles. "Got it," Darwin's driver gave the keeper a thumbs up and blew a short and gentle peep of Darwin's whistle, and they steamed out of the station and Gethin's way. They rode up and round, heading into the Asian safari section with camels, black buck and Asian buffalo. Beyond that was the safari section, where the rhinos, giraffes and African buffalo lived. "Here we are," Darwin's driver braked them gradually. They crawled to a standstill. The keeper took a shunter's pole from the top of Darwin's tanks and carefully unhooked the ramp of the cattle truck. It dropped, letting the buffalo wander out into his new home. "Hang on," the keeper gasped as he watched the buffalo approach the herd. "This is the wrong paddock." "Eh?" Darwin's driver frowned. "This is the Asian paddock. I said to stop in the African paddock." Darwin and his driver looked at the buffalo herd by the waterhole. There was an obvious difference in the shape of their horns. They'd misheard the keeper during all the commotion. "Well, bless me," Darwin gasped. "How are we going to get him back?" "Come on," his driver said. "Let's go tell everyone what's happened." Darwin rolled back along the line and they told the station master everything. Gethin hissed in frustration as Darwin blocked the way out of the station. Again. "Sorry, all trains are delayed until the animal is in the right enclosure," the station master ordered. More keepers with crates of supplies rushed to the platform and climbed into Darwin's carriage. He took them back out into the Asian safari paddock. Together, the keepers did their best to coax the African buffalo back into the cattle truck. The stubborn bull didn't want to at first, but with a big enough trail of sweet, fruity treats, they managed to reload him. Darwin puffed along and crossed the dividing ha-has. The keepers released the buffalo again, this time in the correct paddock. Back at the sheds, Hercules found the whole episode hilarious. "Had Gethin not tried to rush us," Darwin insisted, "my driver would have been able to hear the keeper properly." Gethin huffed. "The station is for passengers, not buffalo." An ominous voice cleared its throat nearby. "We are not like a normal railway," the tall controller reminded Gethin, "and the entire staff are meeting to evaluate what has happened to make sure it doesn't happen again. But," he said to no one in particular, "I would appreciate it if all of my engines expressed the necessary patience required of them." Gethin remained quiet. The tall controller continued. "This and prior incidents do not reflect well on our safety record. We really need to clean up our act before someone decides action is needed." He left, leaving the three engines silent in the sheds. Tunnel vision. Things went smoothly on the line for a while. One day, Darwin steamed into the Asian safari paddock with carriages packed with passengers. Something on the line ahead brought him to a standstill. One of the Bactrian camels had chosen to nap right across the tracks. "Oh well," Darwin whispered to his driver, not wanting to disturb the animal. "We can't go any further until it wakes up." "Unfortunately, we have time to keep." His driver hopped out. He nudged the camel gently. Eventually, the animal awoke and lumbered on in its own time. Back at the station, Gethin seethed as he waited to depart with his own train. When Darwin arrived, he gave him a piece of his mind. "What held you up this time?" "A camel was asleep on the tracks," Darwin explained. "Why didn't you shoo him away? That's what you've got a whistle for." "We can't whistle in paddocks," Darwin reminded him. "Pah!" Gethin snorted. "Stupid rule. When I worked in Wales, our go-to was to use our whistle if there was an animal on the line." The guard then blew his own whistle, and Gethin stormed out of the station, keen to make up for lost time. Darwin, though, was right. Special signs along the line told engines when to whistle. They were to whistle when they entered a paddock, and when they exited a paddock. But a large sign on either side read, "Do not whistle in the paddocks, it will startle the animals." What nonsense, Gethin fumed as he entered the Asian paddock, carriages clattering over the ha-ha. "I'll whistle when I see fit." They passed through into the African paddock, but there was trouble ahead. 3 zebras mingled on the tracks. "Steady boy," Gethin's driver put on his brake. "Huff!" Gethin grumbled. "I know just what to do." He waited for his driver to whistle, but he didn't. Come on, he wore out his patience. The zebras didn't move. Gethin's long boiler tanks extend beyond his smokebox and block his field of view. He couldn't see a rhinoceros grazing nearby. "Fine," he burst. His steam pipes and valves fizzled. Pressure built up inside of his whistle. He forced it and forced it more until a valve popped, causing it to sound with a loud peep. The zebras whinnied and scattered. "That did it," Gethin chuckled. The rhino jumped. Feeling under threat, it charged at Gethin. He didn't see it coming. "Ow!" Gethin burst as something rocked him on the rails. A loud hiss ruptured from his cylinder. "What was that?" "You silly engine," his driver scolded him. "You know not to whistle. Now that rhino's damaged your cylinder and motion, so he can't go anywhere." "Oh," Gethin gulped. The trains would now be later than ever. Hercules arrived from down the line and coupled up to bring the train home. The tall controller stepped from his footplate. "I heard you from my office," he boomed. "That rhino was well within his rights to put your bad behaviour on ice." "Sorry, sir," Gethin apologised. "I don't like the predicament this leaves us in. Now, let's get those people out of here." Hercules pulled the train home and towed Gethin back to the shed. Darwin soldiered on, running most of the remaining trains himself. The tall controller spoke to all 3 engines that evening. "Thanks to Gethin's tunnel vision," he told them, "we have the incident that's broken the zoo director's goodwill. He's now considering closing the railway as it is more of a nuisance than an attraction." "Please don't," Darwin pleaded. "We don't want to be Don't say it," Hercules insisted. "I have no idea what will happen now." The tall controller shook his head and he walked away. For the safety record. After the tall controller's warning, the 3 zoo engines ran their trains as tightly as possible. "We cannot afford any more slip-ups," Hercules frequently reminded Darwin and Gethin. "Let's keep a tight schedule and show the zoo director his guests deserve a railway." Days, then weeks went by without issue, or a decision. The tall controller congratulated them on work well done, but didn't give any updates. "The board is due to meet in 3 days, he said. "I'll present all the information I have to them." For the next 2 days, the engines all worked harder than ever. Gethin had a standoff with the camels, but didn't try and whistle them away. Darwin took the permanent way train out to mend a section of Ha-Ha after opening hours, and got the right paddock. Hercules took the route gently and respectfully, and checking his strength where he needed to had now become second nature. Between the African paddock and the station, the line runs past a large reptile house. A large sign on one of the outside enclosures reads, "Here be dragons." Gethin had often remarked on it. "Dragons can only be found in Wales," he insisted. "Puffin' nonsense," Darwin disagreed. "They're from fairy tale books." "If the sign says there are dragons, then there are dragons," Hercules insisted, and asked the tall controller who put a stop to their bickering. "They are large, venomous lizards from a small, faraway island called Komodo," he explained. "They need a warm indoor habitat, but can come and enjoy the outside during the summers warm enough for them." The engines kept a keen eye out, but never saw a dragon. "I'll believe it when I see it," Gethin humphed. One day, he was passing the outside dragon enclosure when he noticed some collapsed brickwork. "Oh no," he gasped. "The dragon is on the loose." At the next station, they raised the alarm. The zoo put out an emergency broadcast on their speaker system. "All guests are to remain inside until further notice." Gethin's passengers remained put in his carriages. Darwin crossed the Ha-Ha out of the African paddock when he saw a huge lizard on the empty visitor path. "Is that?" he asked. "A dragon," his driver confirmed. "Let's stay put." He whistled out using Morse code. From the yard, Hercules heard the zoo announcement, and Darwin's whistling. "That's a long tune." "It's code," his driver understood. "Dragon, by African exit." A keeper ran over to them with a slab of meat in his hand. "Grab a van," he instructed. "Let's go catch us a dragon." Hercules was coupled up to a van and reversed down the main line. They found the dragon sunning itself on the warm rails and ballast. He looked quite content with himself. "Here's some steam," the keeper told Darwin. "It'll think you're a threat and come this way." Darwin's safety valves hissed loud and fierce. The dragon hissed back. It turned, waddling in a curious way along the tracks towards Hercules' van. With the food in hand, the keeper threw it into the van and the dragon crawled inside. They quickly locked it up. "Hurrah!" Hercules cried. "I caught a dragon!" They brought the Komodo back to the loading bay siding and kept it in the vet's quarantine enclosure until the dragon's enclosure was fixed. That night, the tall controller and the zoo director came to see the engines personally. "You three all worked together gallantly to protect our visitors from a precarious situation," he congratulated them. "For that, you have proved your worth as a valuable part of the zoo's collection." The three engines tooted a chorus of whistles in celebration. "Here be dragons!" "And wild engines," Hercules peeped.